Hey everyone, welcome back to Teenager Therapy. I'm Gael,
I'm Thomas.
I'm Kayla.
and welcome back to another episode. Something that we always feel weird talking about is drugs because I feel like our audience, I always think of them as younger, but I know some of them are, okay, I know most of them are the same age as us because a lot of them kind of grew up listening with us and we're all in college, but there's also a lot of younger listeners. And so sometimes I'm like, makes me feel odd because there's younger people and I'm like, is this a bad influence? Is this all of this? But then I remember, wait, isn't the whole point that like not talking about it doesn't help? Like
Yeah.
when you were younger, you wish somebody would have talked about it so you could be like, oh.
It just feels iffy because it's a public platform and those types of conversations are the kind you have with your friends in private and not posted onto the internet.
Doesn't solve our issue, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the main question we kind of are answering or talking about, am I abusing substances? Am I drinking too much? Am I smoking too much? Do I need to quit? Do I need to watch out for something? That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I just think that it's difficult to be a good judge yourself as to whether you're doing too much of any drug.
Yeah. Especially since at least weed and alcohol, they're very normalized. And let's say you're going out every weekend and drinking or having a smoke, is that too often? Like every weekend? Because I used to see people do that and I was like, whoa, how can they do that every weekend? And now that I'm in college, it does seem like the norm and I don't question it, but it
just gets so normalized so quickly.
It does. It really does.
It really does. Especially if you're around people that are heavy drinkers, it makes you or your drug use or anything seem like normal.
Yeah.
And it just normalizes the whole idea of it that sometimes you start thinking like, like this is totally fine. And it just, I don't know, it really kind of fucks with you. I know scientifically, like, it just, when you're young and your shit isn't developed, it's just not a good idea, really, more than like once, like a month or something. But that's not really realistic.
Yeah, and I think especially at school, it's just routine. And it's also a social thing where like you're drinking with your friends, you're smoking with your friends. And in a way, it's a bonding activity. And if you don't see your friends, let's say throughout the weekday, and you finally see them on the weekend and they want to drink and you want to hang out with them, you know, it's like, do you take that drink?
What's a girl to do?
Do you take that hit? What do you do? Like you want to be with them.
Yeah.
And enjoy their presence and whatever.
Or
but
do you feel like you can't enjoy the same way when sober?
it's a different enjoyment. But yes. Yeah.
For sure.
It's different.
And it depends on the type of environment that you're going to be in. If you're at home, then okay, maybe not. But if you are going out, it's very weird if you don't. Because everyone else is and you're the only sober one. So then that kind of feels isolating. Like not isolating, but you're just the odd one out. And you can tell that the vibes are just not aligned
with you.
Yeah.
Or you just don't feel as fully connected with
exactly.
else.
Yeah, that makes sense. It feels like you're above them slightly.
Because,
wait.
not that.
Wait.
I think that's what
no,
you think.
mentally, it feels like you're in a different place because you're sober. So of course you're fucking like
not above
Maybe
them.
not
Okay.
above them, but you're just
in a different bubble. In a
Okay.
different
In a
bubble.
different bubble, yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, your bias
Okay,
slipped out, baby.
chill the fuck out. Above them, not in that way,
I know,
obviously.
it's just the way you said it.
It feels like you're in your own bubble, in your own world. And a
Yeah.
fucking like, I don't know, I'm gonna keep saying in your own world, in a different wavelength, in a different vibe, on a different radio frequency.
Just to say
It feels like
above them is just wild. I don't know.
No, I know you did.
Yeah,
I know you
yeah.
did.
Yeah. So I could see that. I feel like I've gone to parties and events where I feel like I'm the only sober one. And yeah, you do. I think I could still enjoy myself and have fun, but other times it feels like you're just like the responsible or the one that has to take care of everyone, the one responsible for everyone. And also, I think there's different social rules because it's also weird interacting with drunk people because obviously quickly that can be very problematic. Like, oh, why are you sober interacting with someone drunk and stuff like that, you know? So,
What do you mean by that?
because I feel like if you're at a party and you're sober and everyone around you is drunk, is it like ethically or morally correct to hit on anyone or like, you know, do any other party stuff? Because if you're
I
sober,
never thought about that
same.
ever.
really,
Yeah.
because okay, this is like a whole different topic, but it just goes into the question of like, if there's two people that are both drunk, can they consent to either making out or anything more than that?
Oh,
And if it's
okay.
and if you're sober with the drunk person,
okay.
that's different.
Well, in that case, I mean, if you're just talking to the person, I think it's completely fine. Like,
yeah.
even if you
But,
compliment
yeah.
them, like, or like, oh, I think you're really pretty. I think that's fine. But if you're going to try to escalate it into something more
Yeah.
physical, then that's a different
Yeah.
story.
And so that's
You
another
Yeah.
Most
aspect
likely
And-
of
shouldn't.
not enjoyable when
And also
socially.
the state of their drunkenness.
Mhm.
Like if they're like stumbling and whatever, but if they're like sipping on a drink and they're not like drunk and just tipsy, then like they can have a conversation.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Conversations, yeah. I'm talking about like even just things like kissing someone, you know?
Oh.
Mm.
Like not even really talking
Um,
about sex or anything.
No.
Because you know how like drunk people kiss each other at parties all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's because they're not really thinking.
Exactly. So that's the
So-
other layer.
So I don't
of-
know if that's morally correct. I don't know if it's right.
And that's the other layer you have to think about when you're sober, when people are drunk. And so I think in school, a lot of people feel that pressure. And so they drink more than they might want to themselves. Or do any sort of other drug more than they might want to. Just because it's like, what other option do you have? You know?
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we have been relatively exposed to drugs and alcohol from a pretty early age. Like, even in middle school, kids would be smoking weed, which would be crazy. Like, literally, before the morning even started,
At the playground, like
smoking out of an apple.
Dead
Like,
ass.
I don't know. So, you know, we've had our fair share of, like, observing people and all of that. And going into college, it's a much different scene because parties are happening like every single weekend, and it's a lot more than just weed and alcohol now. It's harder drugs, and it's hard to navigate that. Like, where do you draw the line?
What do you
and-
try? What do you not try?
Yeah.
And it sucks because
Especially if you have like a very adventurous spirit. Like me personally, I love to say that I want to try everything at least once in life, but
it's a slippery slope
it is a slippery slope
when it comes to drugs. Yeah, and that's what sucks about drug culture is that because it becomes normalized so quickly and you don't see like any immediate negative side effects, it just makes you think like, oh, it wasn't even that bad. Like they're fine. It makes you feel like you're being dramatic for not wanting to try something once, right? Because if you start getting into harder drugs like, I don't know what's common, fucking coke, ecstasy, Molly, DMT, I don't know, anything above alcohol or weed, right? Anything above that, I think when I was younger and even now, of course, there's still that stigma of like, oh, that's a little bit more, you got to be more responsible to do that. You got to really like, I don't know, it's a lot more adventurous. But then you see people your age doing it frequently, more than once a year, a couple times, every couple months. And they're fine. Like they're doing fine. They're not fucked up. There's like this, stigma we have against it that if you try it once, like your life is going to go to shambles and stuff. And none of that happens. And so it does make you wonder like, am I being too dramatic? Am I being too sensitive? Am I being too scared? Like, why shouldn't I just try it once when they offered,
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, this is not to say try it, but it's just, I feel like that's the pressure a lot of people feel.
Yeah. It's the question of whether using drugs responsibly is a possibility at all. If that makes sense. Like,
right.
can you do cocaine responsibly? And I don't know.
No, because I think about that.
I don't really think you can, and I think that's kind of the point of it anyways. Like, it's not supposed to be a responsible choice, but I don't know. People say they have it under control, but how much control can you have over it?
Yeah, I don't know. When I first heard the question, I lean towards yes, you can do it responsibly. But
There's always risk.
I don't mean
but
it
you can minimize it.
in a frequent way. Like if you're gonna do it once, twice, yes, you can do it responsibly.
But then it like how are they gonna know that they're only gonna do it that one time?
Well, I don't.
That's why you have to be
Yeah.
have to trust yourself, because if
Yeah.
not, then you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I just wonder, because of course there's always risk involved with any
Yeah.
sort of drug.
Yeah.
So that's out of the question. It's just, I think about the things that people advocate for, like scientists and researchers, educators, like, don't try any drug, don't do it, abstinence, shouldn't get involved with like anything like that. But yeah, it's just that, like, but what are the actual long-term effects if you tried it once when you were 19, 20, 21, and now you're like, you tried it once and now you're 16 being like, I tried it once, Is it
Yeah.
really gonna like...
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's the matter of trying it once. It's trying it once and liking it, and then you go for more, and then it becomes a regular
That's
thing.
the real
And like you
issue.
don't know if you're going to like it until you do it, and you do it just out of spontaneity or whatever.
And that's why it's like, can you do drugs responsibly? Like, even just trying it that first time, the risk involved, and
yeah.
that there's a chance that you're gonna get hooked on it.
Addiction happens so quickly. It's scary, and it scares me. I
It
get
traps
honestly,
you.
yeah, I get more than anything, because I've never tried any hard drug really, and I have friends that have, and I just get so much anxiety for them, because I'm like, that question is, what if they like it too much? They might say it only once, I just wanted to try it once, and then but then suddenly you hear like, I want to try it again. And so now I'm like, oh my God, you just never know where it's going to end up. You never know when it's going to stop, because it's hard to believe people do something once and then never ever do it again.
Yeah,
That's
especially
difficult.
if they like it, and
Yeah.
with drugs, it's hard not to like it.
Yeah.
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 I've had like I've had like specific scenarios with like people in my life as well, where I see them and they're like not in the most mentally stable or just mentally healthy, from what I can assume, point in their lives, and then they try a drug and they swear, and this is when it gets scary, when they say like, no, I just kind of want to try it once and then I'll be done with it. But then they start saying stuff like, oh, but I have to because it's like this reason, so like I'll just like, what, like I have to because it's this thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, that's when it starts to scare me. I just listen to them, and I'm trying my hardest to not like, I can't be a fucking helicopter parent or a parent for them. Like, that's their own choice. They're their own person.
Yeah.
But it does get you, because you're just like, oh, fuck. Like, regardless, if you choose to try a drug, I feel like it affects you, but it also affects the people around you and like the people close to you. Because ultimately, if I have someone I'm close with, I can't really do anything about it, but I know if they fall into any sort of addiction, I will also be responsible for that, or I will feel some sense of responsibility for that, which, maybe I shouldn't because it's not my life, but I think it's kind of inevitable. So it's I hate when people kind of near me start trying more and more drugs, because it makes me feel like, oh, fuck, I got to be responsible if something goes wrong. And I hate that feeling.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm not so much scared of like getting addicted to a drug, but I'm just scared of the effects of it during, and me myself not being able to control my body or like what I'm thinking. Like, I hate the feeling of not being in control, and so that's what scares me the most. But I never really put that much thought, like, what if I get addicted to this?
Really?
Yeah.
That's my...
I've like
Yeah.
never thought
Because
about
no-
that.
I mean,
Maybe you just
nobody
trust
thinks-
yourself.
yeah, man,
Nobody
I don't
thinks
know.
that they're gonna get addicted to anything, and then they do.
Yeah,
so.
it just comes out of nowhere.
Oh, I do. I get scared.
Well, obviously, but like I'm saying,
Oh.
like in general, no one's like, I know I'm gonna get addicted to it, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Oh,
like,
right,
No one,
right.
no one does that unless, I don't know, but
Yeah, for me, it's the opposite. I'm scared that I'm going to like the drug, not that I'm going to feel bad during it. Like, I trust myself that even if it goes bad, I'm like, I'll be fine. Like, I won't fucking die. Like, I doubt anything bad will happen. I think, like, mentally, I'm relatively stable and can handle it, but I'm just scared of liking it too much and wanting to do it again and being like, oh, fuck, now I have this urge to do this thing that I didn't have before I tried it. So it's like, whenever I think about if I would try like a certain drug that's maybe more intense, my first concern is, do I really want to like forever have this urge to try it again after I try it once, or should I just never try it and then never feel the urge, you know? Because I don't know what it feels like, so
True.
I'll never have the curiosity to do it again.
It's a hard thing to balance. I mean, do you have that mindset of, like, you want to try everything once?
You see, I in general in life, I would like to try everything once. Like, I'm a pretty open person. I'm like, you have one life to experience everything. Why wouldn't you want to try it once? But like Thomas said, it gets more complicated when you're talking about drugs.
Yeah.
And like harder drugs. I think when it comes to drugs, I don't know if I would ever be fucking trying shit like heroin. Like, come on, like, really? No, like, we're good. But there's other drugs like psychedelics and such that, I mean, when used recreationally or medicinally, have stronger side effects and can be helpful. So the thought is tempting, but again, it's just like, do I want to try it once? Like, even for alcohol, I don't drink. Never got drunk. None of that. And sometimes I'm like, why? Why don't I drink? For me, it's kind of just, honestly.
You're scared you're gonna like it. Is that it?
Or is it like trauma?
I think a lot of it is just trauma, and I just don't. I feel icky to think of myself drunk, and it just doesn't seem like that's what I would enjoy. But then also, I feel like it gets harder to say no after you've done it once, because now everyone kind of has the argument of like, you've already tried it once, just try it once more. Like, I think a lot of friends pressure me to drink once, try it once, and I always say no. But sometimes I do. It's like, well, what's the harm in just doing it once? You know, but I'm like, no, because again, to my point, if I do it once, it gets easier and easier to do it again. And at that point, you're like, I've already done it 7 times. Like, really, one more? Like,
but I mean, with drinking, are you like, you wouldn't want to do it more than once because why?
I don't know. No reason. I literally just said, don't want to do it. And I just don't want to do it. But yeah, that's the thing with the slippery slope. It's like, try everything once. It's like, I know there's no harm. Like, if I choose one of these days to just get really fucking drunk and experience that once, I'll live. My life will go on. Never do it again. That's fine. So, but I know I don't want to, but I'm like, but there's no harm in doing it once. So I have like that pressure inside me of like, I see both sides, you know? It's also interesting, Kayla, that you say that you just don't like the feeling of feeling out of control. Yeah. Because I feel like that's the feeling I like.
Really?
Yeah, that's like the enjoyable
control part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just scared of what I'm gonna like think during that time, or like, am I gonna think too negatively and then I'm gonna spiral into something, or like, yeah, I just can't control myself or something. I don't know.
No, I get that, because I feel like I get scared of like the sides of myself that I don't like to put out there are just gonna come out.
Yeah, no, that's why
there's nothing I can do about it.
Concern.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times, if I were to want to experiment with like a drug other than like weed or something, I would want to be either by myself or with like a close group of people. But I don't think I would ever want to do it, for my first time at least, in, let's say, a big crowd or a party or a club or something like that.
Going to a giant fucking rave and
I think I would like pass out. I don't know how people can do that, especially if it's their first time. Props to them. I admire you, but I think I would just be way too overwhelmed, and I don't think I can do it. So I would want to try it in the comfort of my own space, knowing that I'll be safe. That's another thing too. I just want to feel safe during it. You know, if I'm with random people partying or whatever and something were to happen, I'm sorry, but that's just like, it's not the best place to be if something bad does happen, if I have a bad reaction to it.
Yeah. Knowing yourself and if you're ready for something is very important, because I know people get pressured into trying stuff and they're not in the right state of mind, and it's just, I've heard a lot of bad stories.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I'm a big advocate for being in the right state of mind. Like I was saying earlier, like I hate when I see friends try drugs knowing they're just not doing good mentally, and I'm like, babes, like fix your life first before you go and try this drug. Like,
Well, I mean, you kind of have to be a little more sympathetic because they're doing it to treat their life, to make their
oh,
life
well,
easier.
yeah, of course, and that's the sad part of it. Like,
Yeah,
of course, I sympathize, and I'm like, you poor soul. I wish like you had more warmth and love around you, but it's still like, I get that. Of course, there's that side, but there's also the logical side that's like, oh my fucking god, that's just a dumb idea. Like, I get why you do it. I fully understand. Like, no judgment, but it's a dumb idea. And I'm like, if you're gonna try a drug, like Thomas said, make sure you're in a good spot mentally. Don't get to the point where you're doing a drug because you're
at a low point in your life.
That's when it really gets worrying. Like every time I see people do that, it just never ends well. Like it never ends well. Don't do it. If you're doing good though, then there's a bigger chance to do it responsibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're vulnerable, then there's a greater likelihood that you can go back to that drug just for some feeling of comfort or happiness or whatever it is.
It's so sad. Makes me so sad. Like, yeah.
Another thing about alcohol is that it's not only a necessary like part in going out and being social, but also workplace environments and networking and all of that. So I don't know. I feel like if you don't drink, you have a lot of limitations socially.
I never realized how big drinking was until, going to college and even at mixers, social events, or just workplace, quote unquote workplace events. Drinking is just a casual thing to do. And that took me by surprise because I would think like, why would you want to drink if you're with your colleagues, or like why would you want to drink if you're just here to network? And that still kind of surprises me because I don't
you
fully understand it,
and you mingle and you're taking away the stress and everything. So which goes into another question where like is how much of that can be considered abusing substances? Do you know what I mean?
So much.
Yeah. And I don't know. In college, it's very hard to tell because it's every weekend. Yeah. And you have this long week of classes and work. And what do you do to like help yourself feel better and celebrate? You go out and you drink and you smoke and you do all sorts of stuff. And
well, the thing is, the reality is like, most people do abuse it.
Yeah, it's just so normalized.
Yeah, it's like drug abuse, alcohol abuse. It is very normalized. Like it's just, cause it's like, what can you do? I don't know. It takes I think it takes a lot of willpower to not actively participate, I suppose, which makes sense because there's so many social benefits to it.
Yeah, and also just growing up, we would obviously see it as middle schoolers with our own age, but I mean, at least in my case, you see it with your parents as well, and your uncles, family parties. And I know that Mexican culture, drinking is a huge thing. I mean, they'll swear off weed and say it's like the devil's drug, but like they're totally 100% okay with alcohol. And so obviously growing up, you'd think, I'm never gonna do that, or like I would never drink as much as they do. But then you reach that point and you're like, wait, like, what's going on, So yeah, a lot of it is just family too.
Yeah, people grew up around it. I feel like the thing with alcohol too is that the negative side effects are long term. So a lot of the friends that we see now like doing fine, that I'm like, I mean, they're drinking 3-4 times a week and they're not like dead, or they're like doing fine. So it normalizes one, drinking more often ourselves, but also it sucks because in the future, like they're going to have a lot more health problems. And it's just so hard when you're young.
You.
It does. And I think when you're young, it's just so hard to believe that it actually will. You're like, there's no way something I
Yeah.
did 20 years ago is gonna catch up, but it really does, and
Yeah.
that is wild. That is very, very sad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
If you drink responsibly. Like, what else can you say?
I think a lot of people are like in school, it's always a complete definitive like say no to drugs, don't do, don't drink, don't do it, whatever. But they never talk about like how, like, okay, if I do it, how do I do it in a safe way? Like,
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah.
just
But
so
then
definitive.
debating whether there is a safe way is
Yeah.
just, I don't know.
I don't know what to do.
It really depends on the person, I
Mm.
guess,
Mm.
and your willpower and how accessible it is to you.
Your mental
Yeah.
state.
Just don't be in a rush to try things, like
Yeah.
you have a long time.
If you feel like it's the right time and you're at the right place and it's right
Mhm.
there, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let
I
the
don't know.
universe bring it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just it's hard because of that pressure where you kind of have to do it before you reach a certain age where that kind of behavior isn't okay anymore. But when you're young and 19 and everything, or in your early 20s, this kind of stuff slides. So I have that mindset where I think we all have that mindset where we should do it now, live while we're young, and then go back to not
Mhm.
doing it. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
because it's funny because I think if you saw a parent drinking every week, like as much as young kids do, you'd be like, oh my god, they have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
You'd be concerned for their health.
Yeah.
But we just feel like it's different because we're young. It's like, no, it's fine, right? Like
It's the same.
it's the same
It's
thing,
a
even
mirror.
worse because your brain isn't fucking developed and shit. Like,
Yeah, and everyone's just making bad decisions and just
sometimes I'm like, I swear to God, if I like live my whole life trying to be as healthy as possible and not partake in this, and then being like the first one to fucking die, versus someone that like drank,
Don't say
No,
that.
don't
versus someone that
say
like
that.
drank like constantly and they're still going up to 98, I'm gonna be like, fuck.
You need to find an in between so that you can also like experience things, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like just choosing what I want to experience.
Yeah.
So that would be my in between. What do I genuinely want to try, and what's kind of more boring?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we can't advocate for anything, but
Yeah,
just have an open mind, I guess.
have an open mind. I think really the big takeaways: be in a good mental state. Don't do it because something's going wrong. That
No
is
matter what,
bad.
if you
Never.
are going to do it, always just know yourself.
Yeah, wait till you're doing good, and you'll probably enjoy more. You'll probably do whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And even then, the urge to do it might disappear if you are doing good.
Yeah,
So, I don't know.
That's true.
literally. Oh my god. Yeah.
You'll make better decisions that way.
Be safe, be responsible. I'm sure you hear all that all the time. I don't really think we are the ones that you need to hear from again. But also it's tricky navigating this topic because we don't want to say the wrong thing or encourage the wrong thing. So
Or incriminate ourselves. Yeah.
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 So yeah, be fucking mindful. It always comes down to mindfulness. Like, of course, the episode title is, am I drinking too much? Am I abusing this substance too much? Am I smoking too much? Be honest with yourself. Like, literally be honest with yourself. It's not good to make excuses for yourself. Like, oh, just because of this or because of this or because my friends do it. Like, it's so dumb. Just be mindful of why you are doing it, why you feel the need. And you'll be good. So,
Yeah. Just take care of yourself.
literally. Anyways, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever at Teenager Therapy. Come say hi, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.